and as you know, what we do each year on the Potomac Valley Awards Committee is we identify who we want to be our head juror. And this year it's you. And then we let you identify who you think are your best jury pool from your region, representing a diverse range of philosophy and approach and firm size and type of work and personality and so on. And so you put in a tremendous amount of effort, and I know it was a very engaging discussion by the jury. So how did you go about picking the other jurors? Do you mind telling us just a little bit about each one of them?
Sure. So first of all, I've done a few of these juries, and of course we've submitted for awards on jury programs. And I think given any component, AIA component area, you have a diverse group of architects with diverse clients and economic circumstances of their projects. Some of them have tight budgets, some of them might have more liberal budgets. Some are larger corporate projects, and some might be housing as opposed to public buildings. So we know all that. So the first thing I think as a juror, as a chair, what we want to do is bring together a group of jurors that can talk to each different kind of project. So Michael LaBeouf was one of my first choices. Michael is a head designer for the firm Little Diversified, which is a very large corporate firm, do a lot of interiors and do a lot of healthcare buildings. And Michael's just a skillful designer, great leader, gentle critic, always appreciates good work, So he's a good juror, and he really brings to the table that kind of experience that you might want to look at larger projects, larger firms, and interiors in particular. So Michael LaBeouf, just a fellow in the American Institute of Architects, 30 years of experience, has done a lot of justice work, a lot of court buildings, which is Michael and I are working on a federal courthouse together right now. So he was somebody to bring to the table that skill set. Matt Cadle is a young architect here in our office, and Matt is a registered architect, a skillful designer, young and upcoming, has worked for a couple good firms, and hopefully we were included in that list. And so we try to bring a couple young people together to both to give them experience on the jury, but also to get their perspective on fresh work and things we might not see. Somebody with 30-year eyes compared to somebody with 10-year eyes. So Matthew Cadle, really, really talented member of our team. And I like to do that when we do these juries. I like to bring along a couple members of my team here to let them see work in another region, and it expands their horizons as well. And so Matthew is just a great critic as well. Brandon Pace from Sanders Pace Architects in Knoxville, Tennessee. Brandon is a principal in the firm, a fellow also, and they have a terrific practice. Mixed, medium-sized, small-scale commercial, some small public projects, a lot of good residential houses, custom houses. So again, a different perspective, but a high level of design excellence skill. And then last, Shannon Gaithings. Shannon is actually another member of our team here, but has really worked with me over the years on affordable housing and some of our nonprofit work, and has a real feel for public clients and housing for those most needy in our communities. So Shannon was our last juror, and then myself. And I would say, I fit into the category of a medium-sized firm principal that's done a lot of public work. But unlike Michael, we don't do the $100 million projects. We do the, $6 to $30 million projects. So we're kind of in that range. So those are our jurors, and the jurors fill out those perspectives that we want to bring to a good jury to appreciate the range of work that might be in a awards program.
That's great. But you do a lot with your $6 to $30 million range. You make a national name for yourself out of that range. So congratulations.
We're growing. We're getting there. We're getting there.
And so obviously you met virtually, it being 2020, and nobody does anything else. But how did the dialogue go, or how did you choose to run this? I know it was a blind jury, but
So you all sent us the projects, and what we do is I make a spreadsheet basically that lists all projects and the categories and the team members. I'm getting ahead of myself. We used your platform to start with for the initial reviews. So you all have a platform that allows us to do an initial score. So my instructions to the jurors is look at all the projects, evaluate them based on the criteria that's in the AIA platform, which has 3 categories: design excellence, sustainability, and community value. I forget the exact words. And so it's a 1 to 4 choice for each category. So that allows each of the jurors independently to score the work, and then we tally those scores. So then we're looking for what projects surface to the top, certainly amongst all the jurors. And I want to come back and talk about the categories. So we'll come back and talk about that in a second. So then we pool that information into a spreadsheet, which, I think there were 56 projects. There were 56 really excellent projects as well. I mean, it was really a great body of work. So each juror read all the material, scored the projects independently, both for the 3 criteria, and then we tallied the leaders that come out of that process. And it's always interesting to me, often you'll find that there's a group of projects that everybody agrees on, and I want to say, we were probably at 20 projects. We went from 56 to 20 projects that surfaced to the top, and I'm not remembering the numbers exactly, but about that. And then what I like to do also is then when we do get together in our virtual meeting, is ask anybody to promote any project into that top list that we might have overlooked, or one juror might have really fell in love with, but it didn't make the total score. So the first thing we do is really look at the projects that didn't surface, and we bring some forward. So we let each juror kind of be an advocate for the project that they liked, that felt the other jurors missed, or didn't appreciate in the same way. So I think our list grew to 24, something like that. We brought a few more projects forward. And at that point, in the jury, so we've got a kind of what I call the long list. So, we went from 56 to 24, something like that. So we felt like there were, that long list were the projects that we felt like were shined a little bit more than the rest of the projects. But, as I said, there were 56 great projects. So, and that's always a hard choice, is how do you make those distinctions? But we do. That's what you all pay us for, right? And
we wish we paid you more.
No, and I want to pause just for a second, because I start out the juries and give the jury instructions, and one of the things I always say is that the reason that we do peer juries, and the reason we all should participate in supporting other components in other areas around the country, is because design excellence matters. And doing these juries has 2 consequences. One is we recognize good work, and we help firms promote themselves and acknowledge success judged by their peers. But it also serves as an educational platform, really. All of us as AIA members, as architects, and as the public, we get to understand what we single out as projects and why they are exemplary of our profession. So so this is, I encourage everybody to participate in juries and be jurors, because it is important. It's an important contribution and responsibility we have to the profession, to promote design excellence and to use it as a vehicle to teach what is design excellence. So back to our jury, with that long list, we go through each project slowly. We page through them, talk about them, go through each of the images, the text, whatever we are considering in terms of project by project. We start at the top and we go through all of them, and then we begin to try to narrow the field and see what surfaces from that list to build a short list. So, I want to say we narrowed the field to, and I'm forgetting the numbers right now, we narrowed the field to 15, maybe, something like that. So not a big cut, as I recall. And because, again, these are great projects, and the distinction between what project stays in that list and what one doesn't sometimes is very small differences.
Well, tell us a little bit about what are some of the things that maybe made a project fall off the list or graduate to another level.
At that level of review, the jury's talking. So we're comparing notes, and we're talking about what we feel strong and what we feel like might have been a little stronger, or and I think we do a pretty good job. I think we did a pretty good job of just talking about each project on its own merits. So no, very, very little, almost no comparison of projects going on. So there's design excellence is, let's talk about the criteria just for a second. The 3 criteria that you all asked us to jury the projects by, starting first, design excellence, second, sustainability and environmental mature considerations, and the last, in a way, I call it social good. You called it community benefit or community connection or value. Those are 3 categories that at the point of the second round of jury, we collapse into one category. Design excellence is a comprehensive characteristic of great projects that includes social and environmental justice considerations. It includes sustainability and energy efficiency and an intelligence about the way a building connects to its environment, and it includes a command of the variables of making a building, everything from the formal design structure all the way down into the technical resolution of detail.
Well said.
So at that point, we collapse categories and begin to talk about comprehensive performance. The idea that design excellence is a resolution and a celebration of those characteristics. So that, there are then successes and failures. There's in some, it's at this point, there are not many failures. They're just like big nuances that don't quite fit the aspect of, that kind of comprehensive satisfaction of all those criteria. So, in one case, there was a roof detail, downspouts that just, boy, they could have been handled slightly differently, and they would have been a little bit background rather than foreground in the design, and stellarly good project, but, just a few details that weren't quite there. An interior that didn't quite match the aspiration of the envelope and the shaping of the building, but still a worthy, good project, maybe color choices or something that looked more trendy that maybe didn't need to be, So, so the nuance, so you're looking at nuances that are not really marks against the project, but nevertheless.
And so that starts to help separate honor from, merit and citation and
exactly.
Not quite
exactly.
award.
Yeah, or and then environment. We talked about comprehensive performance. So all glass building may not be the best choice, for energy efficiency, right? But there may be other reasons that it's all glass. So, you start to look at if we're talking about design excellence as comprehensive performance, you start to look at the nuances of pluses and minuses, making up that aspiration that we're looking for high honor, or in your case, the high honor being the gold award. and then to try to scale those projects. Which ones are maybe as flawless as we can see, but based on what we have, and then those that might be really, really good, but maybe a couple of things that might have been a little different, you know. So anyway, we go through that process, and we eventually get down to then deciding on the award list, and then making the distinctions about the levels of award. And usually the high award projects are very clear and very fast, because at that level, the 56 projects, to have 2 or 3 projects that just stand out is pretty normal. You know, the architects hit it out of the park. You know, and then you know, to have a group of others that are, you know, honor or merit to follow makes a lot of sense. I can tell you that you have 3 categories: gold, 4 categories: gold, honor, merit, and citation. And the jury chose not to use the citation characterization at all. We felt like it didn't have any distinct meaning from merit. We couldn't say there was a notch down from merit. We felt like in 56 projects that had merit, you know, we had 2 gold awards, and then we had some honor awards, and then we had some merit awards. At that point, we felt like we captured the spirit of the awards program.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's great. Thanks for that. Well, you know, most years, of course, we have you come and present the awards in person. And this year we'll be relying on the comments that your jurors have provided. But when we have you travel to visit us, you know, we also hold a master class. I have to let my dog out in a minute, but my daughter just got home, so I think she'll be doing that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about, you know, your firm, how it formed, you know, and kind of what's going on with your firm these days, and what your new challenges are in terms of the business side of this practice that you've masterfully crafted into a great thing, but it's a very unique practice that you have.
Well, thank you. And I'm sad we're not there. I mean, I have many friends there in Maryland, and then, you know, David Cronrath, who's at Maryland now. And David is one of my dearest and oldest friends. In fact, David hired me into my first teaching position when I was 25 years old.
Oh, wow.
In Philadelphia. So we go back a long way. So, and he's no longer dean at Maryland. He's now vice provost, I think, or something.
Yeah, even bigger shot.
Even bigger shot. That's right. And so our firm. So I am sad I'm not there, sharing our work and the celebration of good work that you guys have with you. And I think one of the nice things is to hear the stories about the firms and the projects from the architects when we get to travel and be with you on these kinds of programs.
Well, one thing I meant to let you know, which you probably don't know, but you know, because you were a blind jury, this year we had I think there was 12 winners or something like that. But they were representative of 11 different firms. So usually we have 1 or 2 companies that kind of rake in 2, 3, 4, or 5 awards a year. And this year it was truly spread around.
Wow.
So it was interesting.
Wow. Of course, we didn't know that. Yeah, I still don't know the firms. Yeah. Well, good. It shows what we sensed when we first saw all 56 projects. There's a lot of good projects here and a lot of good firms doing good work. So congratulations to everybody. So our practice is about a 15-person practice led by my wife and I, Anne Marie Decker, and myself, and we've been in business about 2 years. And we're located in Jackson, Mississippi. And as you can imagine, Mississippi is not the biggest economy in this country, that our budgets are minuscule, our fees are tight, and the need for good design work that is sustainable, that does impact public good is huge. So so we work hard every day to try to do some public good with our work. And for 20 years, we've been doing mostly public projects. So we do university projects, municipal and institutional projects, libraries, schools, classroom buildings, that sort of thing. But then we also do affordable housing and community planning. And of late, we're getting the opportunity to do some really special public projects, a federal courthouse for the U.S. court justice system and GSA, and a very large municipal complex, City Hall, the State District Court, and police station in Springdale, Arkansas. So so our ability to do more substantial public projects is growing, and we couldn't be more thrilled by these opportunities.
Well, I mean, obviously there's there's a somewhat deserved reputation that firms with international design reputations have national design budgets. And you've been able to build the reputation on projects that didn't have the budget. So what's some of the secret sauce to
so that's right. We do not have national budgets. We've never had a budget that anybody would consider even enough to do a project. A few years ago, one of our houses was recognized as one of the AIA residential projects of the year. There were 5 recognized. One was in Hawaii, one was on Bainbridge Island off the coast of Seattle, one was in Aspen, I forget where the other one was, and then one was in Jackson, Mississippi. So we were really proud of that because we did ours on a fraction of the budget of those other projects. So design excellence does not require money. It doesn't require a large budget. In fact, we sometimes think that we're better because we've worked hard with minimal budgets to do good design work. So we've had really early, we had to decide, well, what's important? Is the quality of a material important or the quality of light? And so early on, we recognized that light and color and proportion, texture are all free. We don't need marble to make a great building. We just need the skill to get the light right. So our practice for years has been cultivating our ability to really lure natural light into buildings in beautiful ways. Imagine trying to make light that feels velvety inside a building. We start to really challenge ourselves to make the character and quality of space lasting and surprising.
Would you say that would you say that only takes more skill, or does it also take more time on your part than, say, the average architect might be willing to commit to a given fee?
Well, skill is not possible without more time. Skill's learned. So yes, it's an investment of time. So I didn't tell you about the rest of our practice because that's key to that time issue. So we're in Mississippi. We have tight budgets and not a great access to lots of projects. So the economy of our firm is early on we had to expand the base of activities that we do to make up a firm. So we expanded a design firm or an architectural firm. We kind of said, wait a minute, we are skillful designers and we know how to plan projects. We know how to cultivate and develop pro formas for developments. We know how to design projects. We know how to acquire capital for projects through tax credits and historic tax credits and low-income tax credits. So we can, with our knowledge, we can bring capital to projects, and then, we can design them, we can oversee construction, and then we can also, with our knowledge, care for buildings long into their lives. So our practice really starts with planning and development. We do both. Our traditional architectural practice certainly And then we also have a facilities management arm that cares for buildings, does the janitorial work, fixes the roof, the economy, our firm is broader. So all of that is to say that we do then buy design time. So we build a broader base so that we actually have more flexibility to invest time in projects.
So diversifying your services does not diversify your time demands?
So it's interesting. You would think so if you made 3 businesses, but we've constructed the whole business plan as one business. So it's really just an expanded architectural project practice. So in other words, a development project or planning project is just another project. It's a different number on our timesheet, and all the architects might work on it. Same thing with facilities management. It's just a different number on our timesheet. So if you don't actually craft separate management structures and separate, they have to be separate profit centers and separate businesses because they all have different insurance and different accounting. But at the level of managing a firm, we treat them as projects. So in a sense, our capacity to manage projects is governed by the number of people and the schedules, like any firm. The difference is really they pay differently. So when we're doing development consulting and we are able to secure capital for projects, we charge a success fee. So not by the hour, right? So architect's time is usually measured by the hour. So in some cases, we can be the architect for a project and also the development consultant. And we sometimes will make more as the development consultant in 10% of the time than we do as the architect for all the time to do the documents and construction.
And what
So
specifically are you doing as the development consultant?
I'm sorry?
What specifically are you doing as the development consultant? Are you doing the whole pro forma and everything?
So we did a data center for a cloud services company out of Baton Rouge, and did a data center in Shreveport, Louisiana, a couple years ago. They were looking for a new data center, a backup data center for their Baton Rouge facility. They contacted us to help them find a site. And instead, we found an old building in downtown Shreveport, which was an old department store on the historic register. So well built, 50s, had all the criteria for durability and resilience in terms of a structure. We're more environmentally sound, and we have a lower carbon footprint by reusing an existing building. And we can then apply for historic tax credits on behalf of the owner. So we worked up the pro forma, we worked up the qualified costs for the project. A data center is an expensive proposition, and a historic preservation project for an old department store is expensive. So we were able to bring a substantial amount of capital to the project for our owner, separately from our architectural design fees. So we got a 10% success fee of the capital we brought to the table for the historic tax credits, and then we got our normal architectural fee for doing all the labor, design work and labor to help them build the data center. So it's a twofer, really. I mean, we certainly, the difference is you're getting paid for value, not necessarily hours. So that's just an example of how the economy of an expanded firm can be different. On the facilities management side, that's a recurring monthly service that is the same every single month. So we say sometimes that architectural cash flow is like this, right up and down. Facilities management cash flow is like this, it's flat. Every month it's the same amount coming in. So it stabilizes the cash flow for the firm. So anyway, all of these different pieces
and the
come
development
together.
fee is the most volatile, it sounds like.
And that's most volatile, that's right. That's right, exactly. All that kind of evens out, and we are, you know, our motive is not profit, although we certainly all want to make a living and put money away and send our kids to school. But our motive is actually balanced by finding a way to have a culturally critical conversation about what public good is in this world, and how, as architects, we're responsible for um, articulating that through our work. And it goes back to recognizing design excellence as a educational force in our communities.
That's terrific. What other things about your practice would you like to kind of delve into? Do you want to show us some of your work, or you want to?
Well, you know, I was thinking about that. Maybe everybody could just go to the website if they're curious. It's probably easier than trying to do this over Zoom.
We could even do that and flash up a few pictures for you while you're talking.
Yeah.
We could superimpose it on your face or something.
You know, I think Ann and I are just like every other firm in the country. We're trying to do the right thing every day, trying to get the waterproofing in the right place, trying to be sure the buildings are built well, trying to care for our clients and their needs, trying to, you know, be responsible with their resources. We're just like every other firm. I think what we have gotten a sense of and what we try to do that we feel strongly about is that, and I might even say we're a little critical of the profession at large. We feel like architects are well trained to be world builders. We look at a circumstance, we think of all the variables to make a better world, and then we have the skill and wherewithal to craft that world. That skill set is magical. We don't always use it to our best advantage as human beings, for our communities, for the well-being of the most needy in our communities, or our environment. If we are truly skilled to be world builders, then the challenge is, how do we use our skills well? How do we build well? How do we care for the needy in our communities? How do we care for our environment? So for us, Ann and I talk about public good. Every project is measured by this shorthand. How do we advance public good? And then in every project, the answer to that question is different. But we ask that question of every project, and it is always really, you know, achieving some measure of social or environmental equity, some measure of sustainability and responsibility for our environment, and then also some measure of success economically. Do we add jobs to the community? Do we change the appraisal rates of land near our properties? Do we make a profit ourselves and sustain our ability to do this work? So I think I would, if I could say anything to other architects, I would say use our skills more broadly with a greater sense of aspiration for the consequences of our work, because they are very large, and they're often larger than we think.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, because if you look around at even just our physical world today, most architects aren't happy with it, but it was created by us as a profession. And
yep,
that's not a very happy situation. Yeah, there's stellar examples, of course.
And it's a sad thing that architecture as a profession is celebrated, that we celebrate the novelty, that we don't know, we don't always know how to celebrate quality. Because sometimes quality is quiet. It's not loud. You know, sometimes just a really simple, good building is maybe the most profound contribution a community could get, but yet it gets overlooked in design awards programs. So this is one of the other things we looked at in all of your projects, is we were looking for quality. We were trying to not be fooled by novelty. We were trying to look for serious architects that were thinking about their context, thinking about the character of space they were making, and thinking about their clients, and thinking about buildings as a contribution to a community, not necessarily a figure to command attention by itself.
So how has your practice been impacted by COVID, or has it?
just like everybody. We in March. In fact, I was in Washington in March, near you, when Washington shut down. I was on a jury at AIA, and in fact, AIA headquarters shut down, and the jury was the only. We were in the conference room. We were the only ones there. So the city was shutting down, and I was in Washington, and my son goes to school in Philadelphia. He was going to meet me. My wife was on vacation with my daughter. So we all were away while this was all happening, and we all struggled to get back home at the same time. And then we, just like everybody else, I think, shut down our office and moved everybody home. And we worked like that for several months. Well, actually, we're still working like that. About half of us are back in the office now, and very flexible part-time. We came back to our office in July, about half, but not before we spread everybody out. We put guards up so nobody's near each other. We, trying our best to, be safe as possible. If I walk out the door right here, I put my mask on. So we're doing our part and trying our very best to keep everybody healthy.
Well, one of my other hats is I serve on the Practice Management Knowledge Community Leadership Group, and there's been a lot of discussion about how many people are going to go back to work, and how much demand will there be for office space in general, but also within the architecture profession. And that it's really started to define the purpose of the office is the occasional coming together rather than the daily head down to the grindstone, nose to the grindstone task.
I think we discovered how flexible we could be.
Yeah, but boy, has there been a polarization that I've seen in the views of principals as to whether this is working or not. It seems in general, the staff thinks it's absolutely fabulous. And the principals seem to think, well, there's those that say this is terrific, I've been doing this for years anyway, and others that say everybody's inefficient. On the community chat board recently, one principal was complaining that nobody will now join my Friday afternoon happy hours. I'm thinking, well, you didn't send them free beer. Of course.
That's right. That's right. It's got to be a better Zoom chat. That's right.
But there's I think a legitimate concern that a lot of people have raised is the degradation of knowledge transfer between the generations of architects. And something that concerns me. What are your thoughts about that?
I don't know that we've seen that. We've been, we stay really connected, even though we're in just separate places. And so we pretty quickly structured a morning meeting every single morning when everybody went home. For 30 minutes, we touch base with each other, and then we follow that up with project meetings. And, we did that for a long time. Now, that meeting has now diminished to twice a week, but it allows us really to kind of quickly review all the projects, make sure everybody's plugged in, find out what somebody doesn't know or needs to know. And so we've just managed it like we're all in the same space, because we're really a collaborative office. Ann and I have started this practice to be an educational practice, to as best we could over the course of young architects' experience with us, to teach them to be good generalists. So we're always very educationally oriented. So we're always trying to bring people along and talk about the principles, talk about the lessons learned. So everything we do is very collaborative, and we have the saying that, the best idea wins. So we sit around a table or we sit on a Zoom call, somebody says something that changes a project, then that changes the project if it's the best idea. So everybody feels that everybody's opinion is valid, so we stay pretty connected. So I haven't seen that loss, because I got a group of people I work with that'll speak up and tell me I'm absolutely wrong, that there's a better way. So Ann and I have cultivated an environment where it's anybody can say anything, and we listen, and we make a project better that way. So I think it's in our culture not to lose anybody.
Is your recruiting nationwide, or is it mostly from University of Arkansas or Mississippi schools, or do you only bring in people who have a few years experience?
No, we have a group of architects from all over, Kansas, Northeast, Yale graduates, Louisiana, Mississippi State, Auburn, so some regional, Ohio, all over. And we've had architects on our teams from around the country. Jackson, Mississippi is not always the place you choose if you choose a place to live. So,
well, my uncle was an architect. He went to Fayetteville, and his first job was in Jackson for 3 to 5 years. I forget the name of the firm, but it's been some years now. So he eventually dropped out of the profession and went into rejoined the military as a citizen, doing something different. He was touching up the stealth bomber every time it landed. So that's kind of a big job switch, but it's just interesting that he went to Jackson and he seemed to enjoy it. I've never been there myself.
It's a good place to live, and what they say about the South is true. It's gracious, it's lush, it's beautiful. It is poor. We have poverty, worse in the country, and racism is an issue. It's a very conservative state. All the things that you know about Mississippi are probably somewhat true, but what you don't know about Mississippi is it's also an amazing place to live with great people who really care for each other, and race relations is a really good, healthy conversation here. It's not always a negative conversation. It's often a really healthy, engaged populations talking amongst each other in a real healthy way. So I think in the South, maybe the questions of living together and appreciating diversity are more apparent and more upfront than maybe in other places. So Ann and I have been real fortunate to be here and meet some and work with some civil rights veterans that are just amazing, and we just lost John Lewis, of course, and John Lewis came to one of our ribbon cuttings, which we got to meet him, and just an extraordinary human being. And so it can be a magical place too.
So the AIA as a whole and each chapter individually are struggling with how to make the profession more diverse. It's been an issue for a decade or so within the AIA nationally, but obviously really coming to a head in a lot of people's minds, really kind of getting more concrete. What thoughts do you have to share on specific strategies that could be done to help that?
So one thing that we work on a good bit is we do a lot of community planning, and a lot of community planning in disadvantaged neighborhoods, persistent poverty communities, which are often largely 98, 99% African American. I can tell you, having talked to children of all ages in those communities, that the reason poverty is persistent in those communities is because children don't have role models to understand that they can work themselves out of those circumstances. So imagine a child on a street who never meets anybody that went to college, never meets anybody that was an engineer, never meets anybody that was a policeman. Their reference for their lives and their future is conditioned by their upbringing. So persistent poverty is persistent because, in one sense, because the children that grow up in those environments don't have access to the imagination that they can leave. And it's not comprehensive, but that's a very common formula for somebody losing hope. So what can architects do? Go into those communities and be role models. we want a diverse profession, then we have to cultivate the voices of diversity. And it's not about just hiring an African-American graduate. It's about recruiting children to know about what architects do, and to give them the opportunity and the imagination to think that they can do that, or that they might want to do that. Now, you know, that's so. Am I really suggesting that we volunteer our time to do that work? That could be an answer. I am saying that architects need to be more publicly engaged, but I think through our work and through in our case, our planning work in these communities, we spend a lot of time in the communities talking to all different age groups and all different citizens in those areas, you know, and we talk to them about what we do. It's not just about the project. We talk to them about their environment. We work in schools. We work with nonprofits that do after schools programs. So we are pretty committed to at least doing what we can do to overcome the lack of hope that children grow up with in these communities. So, you know, will that change the profession? I don't know. Will 10 children that we've come in contact with choose the profession of architecture and help us change it? I hope so.
Well, all change is just a trend of small changes. You have enough small changes happen, that's a big change. There's never been a big from on high change that worked. It's really a movement of direction by everyone, or the preponderance of us. So, well, that's great.
And, you know, it goes back to what I was saying before. You know, if we're worried about the consequences of our work, then we're worried about the impact of our design work in communities at large, not just our award, right? Not just our recognition as the designer. We're interested in the exact thing that has nothing to do with us, which is how people benefit, interact with, learn from, are healthier because of our work.
That's good. You know, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but what other, you know, there's a few other topics we've thrown out, but what are your other thoughts or things you'd want to, you know, it's really a wide open conversation.
Well, I don't know, Scott. You know, I do these juries because I believe, as I said before, in design excellence, being comprehensive, and I believe that we have an obligation to each other to share our thoughts and learn from each other. I can tell you I'm involved in a really interesting new group that I would encourage every architect to look into, which is Architects Declare, which is a group of architects creating, really building a United States version of what is a global growing group of a grassroots effort to help make a better world. And Architects Declare is a declaration of working on the conjunction of three problems: one, the climate problem; two, the loss of biodiversity; and three, the inequities of social and environmental inequities that we have in our environment. So anybody can look it up. U.S. Architects Declare. It's just getting started, and we're about to have a town hall meeting on September 24th and open it up. But the idea is that we build a resource that is not a scoring system, nothing that can be compromised or co-opted by the marketplace, but a resource for all architects to share best practices and learn from each other. How do we make sustainable, low carbon footprint buildings? How do we expand rather than shrink biodiversity? And how do we combat social and environmental injustice? So we're building something that I think is a flat playing field that everyone can share. So that's, I would encourage everybody to look at it. Firms can sign up and commit right now, and hopefully within a few months we'll have it'll grow into a resource for all architects.
Beautiful. Well, we'll certainly try to bring up a link to that during our presentation.
Right now it's being organized and managed by the Architectural League of New York. They're kind of they're organizing it, so it's really connected to their website right now.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I appreciate your time, Roy. It's took another hour out of your life.
That's
But
right.
it's fun. I enjoyed
So
that.
thank you, Scott. And on behalf of the jury and myself, we want to thank the architects of Potomac Valley for some great work and letting us participate and review it and hopefully acknowledge some really excellent work. But as I said to start off with, there are 56 projects and there were 56 really good projects. So thank you all.